my God. I'm going to have so much fun with this bike. Alright, I am potentially the most excited I've ever been about a product that I've reviewed, but finally, I've been teasing it for a while. This is one of the motorcycles I keep saying at the end plates that we're going to be reviewing. We have the Talaria Sting here. I'm so excited about this bike. I can't even explain how excited I am. I grew up riding dirt bikes. I haven't had one in years and years, and so when the opportunity to pick this thing up came around, I knew I had to, and I've done some riding so far, and let me tell you right off the bat that this thing is badass. It is so cool. So if you haven't heard about all the hype around the Talaria Sting, you might know about its main competitor, which is the Sur-Ron. Sur-Rons have been around for a while. They're basically these like miniature, lightweight electric dirt bikes that look strikingly similar to this, or should I say this looks strikingly similar to the Sur-Rons, and that's because someone from Sur-Ron left the company and started Talaria and made this based off of a Sur-Ron. Now, I've personally never ridden a Sur-Ron, so I can't really speak on Sur-Rons at all, but my focus is not on that for this video. My focus is on the Talaria Sting. And with that being said, let's get into some of the stats. So real quick, let's just start off by looking at how great this bike looks. I mean, the style is amazing, all blacked out, looks really good. I'm a huge fan of the styling of this bike. You can get a front fender for it. I don't have that, it didn't come with one, but even so, I kind of like it without it. All right, let's get right to the most exciting part about this bike, which is the powertrain. So these forks are the RST-Killa forks. They are basically mountain bike forks, and I'm not a huge fan of them with this bike, to be honest. They're very soft, and they just don't seem to handle the weight of this bike very well. I haven't had really any issues with them. It's just that I don't really like how soft they are. I wish it was stiffer, and there's not a whole lot of adjustment. You do have rebound adjustment, and you do have compression, but even so, I can't really get them to be the way I want them to be. I think I would just need stiffer front shocks. In the rear here, our rear shock is, we have fast ace shock in the back. This one is pretty good. It's also a little soft, but it is better, I think, than the front one. I like the feel of it. It is a little on the squishier side for me, but I'm fine with it. For the tires, we have an 80-119 knobby, full knobby on the back, and we have a 70-119 on the front. So they actually have a wider tire in the back than on the front, which I'm fine with. That's how it should be with dirt bikes. The front and rear wheels are both 19 inches. So for a typical dirt bike, you're gonna have a smaller wheel in the back and a bigger wheel in the front. But since this is kind of a mountain bike, dirt bike hybrid, the wheels are the same in the front and the back as far as the wheel size. Haven't really noticed any kind of issue with that. I just think it's interesting. All right, enough dilly-dallying. Let's just get to it. Wow, these tires grip pretty well, considering how small they are. And by small, I just mean narrow. Okay, this field isn't super flat. It's pretty bumpy, but let's just see what we can do for acceleration. I'm just gonna pin it, and we'll see how fast we can get up to, like, I don't know, 30 or something. Ready, go. There's 30. This thing with full battery, with full charge, it is scary to pin it. Not scary, it's fun. Oh, just bottomed out the front forks there. The front forks are just too soft to this bike. This bike weighs like 127 pounds, and it needs some stiffer suspension. I just bottomed out the front suspension, and I wasn't even hitting that big of a jump, but I felt it clunk, which is not what you want to feel. It has plenty of travel. I mean, it's got a lot of travel, but it's too soft. And it soaks up the bumps well, but it moves a lot. It has a lot of travel. And I would honestly rather have stiffer suspension just because it would offer me a little bit more control. Because you don't want the suspension to move around too much. Otherwise, everything feels soft and your response times are slower. So the tires being kind of narrow, I think these are 3.5 inch wide tires. I'd have to double check, but they don't have as much surface area, obviously, as your typical dirt bike tires. So they slip a little bit more. And it really is a lot like riding a mountain bike. The tires grip pretty well. I mean, this is all loose stuff. This is all loose leaves and pine needles and rocks and roots and sticks and all kind of stuff. And the tires aren't really slipping. Look at these big old brake rotors, front and rear. We have hydraulic brakes. These are Talaria brand, it looks like. I mean, they might have just taken another brand and put their logo on it, but I don't know. I can't find anything on the website about what it is, but they are really nice. I really like the brake feel, and it's really cool that unlike a typical dirt bike, your rear brake is not on the right foot peg. It is actually on the left handlebar. So front brake is on the right where it should be. Rear brake is on the left. I actually have grown to like having the rear brake on the handlebar instead of being by the foot peg. I know, heresy for a dirt bike rider to say that, but I actually really like it. I think because I don't have to worry about shifting and using the clutch and everything, it really lets me just focus more on my riding, and I don't have to, I don't know, it's almost more natural. I like it. Having the back brake as the left lever instead of the clutch being there is honestly really nice. And that's coming from someone, I'm a diehard motorcycle rider. I love having to shift. I love going through the gears. But I'm telling you, when you're riding off-road, having a single speed electric bike is honestly better, in my opinion, than riding a dirt bike where you have to deal with gears and clutching and stuff. Because you can just focus so much more on the ride itself and on what you're doing, and you don't have to worry about what gear you're in and feathering the clutch to get up a steep hill or something. You can just go. The seat is very comfortable, although if you're riding it like you should be riding it, so like a dirt bike, you're gonna be standing up and you're barely ever gonna be sitting down on this seat. But when you do sit down, it is quite comfortable. So the rear sprocket on this bike either comes as a 44 tooth or a 48 tooth. If you get the 44 tooth, you have 284 Newton meters of torque at the rear wheel. If you get the 48 tooth sprocket, you have 309 Newton meters of torque at the rear wheel. I'll put up what that is in foot-pounds as well, but let me just tell you, it is nuts. The level of torque this bike puts out is just ridiculous. All that torque and power is from this lovely, lovely motor right here. This is a 3 kilowatt motor with a 6 kilowatt peak output. It honestly feels more like a 6 kilowatt continuous motor. It's crazy. It just puts down so much power. What I will say, and I'll get into it more when I'm actually riding, is that it has most of that power really low, and then once you get up to higher speeds, it starts to drop off. It doesn't feel as fast. But it doesn't really matter because most of the riding I'm doing, at least, is trail riding where I'm going pretty slow the whole time, and I want that power low down rather than high up. I've never ridden something with this much power that's so easy to just throw around. So it handles these rough trails pretty well. These are very technical, rocky, rooty trails, and it's just powering through. Ooh, that was a pretty steep little hill. No problem for this thing. So I'm riding in sport mode. It has sport and eco mode. And eco, not surprisingly, just like limits the amount of power and speed that the bike delivers. And it's great for obviously getting the maximum amount of range, but I want the maximum amount of torque at all times. So I'm going sport mode, and it's very controllable still. Sport mode isn't crazy, although if you go wide open, the front tire's coming off the ground, and that's a guarantee. This feels way more powerful than any e-bike I've ever ridden. Just because it is. When you really open this thing up, it goes. It goes. This thing moves. So the bike has 4 levels of regen braking, which you change by pressing these buttons here. To be honest, I don't really notice that it does a lot. It feels like the bike still just coasts for the most part. The regen braking is not strong. On the Cake Calcs, if you put them in the 4-stroke regen brake setting, that thing would really bring your bike to a stop. This really doesn't feel like it's doing much of anything. It basically just coasts when you let off the throttle, which is fine. It's good for conserving momentum, obviously, but I like 4-stroke bikes, so I like having a lot of engine braking when I let off the throttle, and that's not something you get with this. You have a horn, very loud. I don't want to disturb the neighbors right now, but the horn is extremely loud. If we open up the battery compartment, you will see this gigantic battery here. This is a 60 volt, 38.4 amp hour lithium ion battery. Enormous, and it is removable, although I don't want to take it out because it's heavy and I don't want to bother putting it back in right now, but you can remove it. Got this battery level display right here. You got 180, 60, 40, and 20. When you do want to take the battery out, you got to flip this breaker switch off. Then you simply push down on this, unplug it. There you go. That's it. That's all you have to do. Really easy to plug back in as well. Just push that down. Make sure you flip the breaker switch on when you want to ride it. You can charge this bike with the battery still in it, which is nice. All you have to do is open this little plug thing right here, and there you go. That's where you charge the battery. And luckily, it has this opening here so that you don't even have to open it up. You can just plug it straight in on the side here. When it's time to ride, key in the ignition, turn it on. This screen will turn on. And then you see how it says wait? I hope it shows up on the camera, but it says wait right now. I can twist the throttle, nothing's happening. The bike is on, but it's not ready to ride. That's because I have to press this start button right now. If I press start, then it says ready, and if I give it throttle, it wants to go. So nice safety feature. Also, what's cool is if I flip the kickstand down and I go like this, nothing happens because it has a motor cutoff switch when the kickstand is down. Another great safety feature so that you don't accidentally go flying off and hurt yourself or someone else or damage the bike. All the bad things that could happen if you accidentally crack the throttle on this and you're not ready for the power that it puts down. Up front here, we got a very, very bright LED headlight. I hope it shows up how bright it is, but this thing, if I'm looking right at it, is actually hurting my eyes quite a bit. It's always on, which is good. It, you know, added level of safety when you're riding because people cannot hear you coming for the most part. This thing is very quiet. And you also have a always on tail light. It unfortunately is not a brake light. It doesn't flash or get brighter when you squeeze the brakes, but it's, again, nice to just have. Makes you more visible, makes people more aware of you when you're riding in the trails. One of the key differences between the Talaria and the Sur-Ron is that the Sur-Ron has a primary belt drive, whereas the Talaria has a primary gear drive. This is actually a little internal gearbox right here that then drives the chain. You don't have to shift or anything. Like when I say gearbox, don't think you have to shift gears or anything. It's just this internal little gearbox here that drives the chain. The difference is that you have to change the oil on this. I think it's every 500 kilometers or so you have to do an oil change for the gearbox. Makes it sound like a big deal or whatever. It's really not. It is a pretty simple process though. And in all honesty, I'm not gonna waste your time or my time with all the boring tech specs. What's more important to me than what all the facts are on paper is how this bike rides. So in case I missed out on stuff, which I'm sure I did, I'm just gonna put up a screen grab or a screenshot of all the specs I can find about this bike so you can pause the video, read through them yourself if you wanna know all the nitty-gritty details. I want to give the biggest possible thank you to Ebikezilla for hooking us up with the deal they got us on this bike. We didn't get this bike for free, so I do not feel inclined to give you an overly rosy review, which I don't ever do. I mean, you can see on the reviews that I've done in the past. If I don't like something, I don't like it, I'm gonna be honest. But they hooked us up with a really good deal to make this possible. And I just wanna say that working with them has been so easy and really, really great. Thank you to Jean-Francois and Samuel, who I've been dealing with from customer service. They've been fantastic. If you want this bike, and I highly encourage that you consider this bike at least, if not, just go ahead and buy it. Make absolutely sure you get it from Ebikezilla. They're based in Canada. Customer service is great. They are the ones you need to go to, and we have a code that you can use to get a discount on your order. Again, biggest thank you to Ebikezilla. You guys rock.